Good morning, everybody. So today we'll be starting with our statutory update that will be applicable for November 23 examination with respect to GST. So the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, they have already released this statutory update, and we will be discussing, whatever amendments and circulars are there which will be applicable for this November 23 examination. So let us begin with the same, that amendments up to 30th of April 23 are asked in November 23 examination. So first of all, in the second chapter, supply under GST, we have one more circular which has been issued in this regard by the government relating to what, say, if we have taken any insurance. Let us understand the things. We have taken an insurance policy in that the insurance company provides insurance services to the insured. If no claim is lodged in a financial year, then in subsequent years they give you what? No claim bonus. They give you what? No claim bonus. That your premium amount will be what? Reduced by that no claim bonus. Okay. So that has been provided. Now, a question arose in the trade, say whether the insured is providing any services and the consideration is in form of what? No claim bonus. What services is what? Whether he is providing any service, that is basically what service? Obligation to refrain from an act. That is what? Whether insured is providing any services to the insurance company, which type of service? Obligation to refrain from an act. That is, he is not filing any insurance claim. Whether the same can fall under the obligation to refrain from an act, and the consideration is in form of the discount or the bonus, no claim bonus, which is given by the insurance company. Say if your premium is 10,000 rupees and the insurance company is offering 2,000 rupees as the NCB and you are required to pay only 8,000 rupees. So whether it can be 2,000 can be considered as a consideration for whom? The insured. So for this purpose, the department has clarified that, the government has clarified that here it cannot be said that the insured is providing any service to the insurance company. It is not basically, if they say, if there is any accident, then definitely he will lodge a claim. So basically, it cannot be said that he is providing any service. Therefore, the no claim bonus cannot be regarded as a consideration. No claim bonus cannot be regarded as a consideration because no supply of services there by the insured to the insurance company. So here first issue was the issue which arose under consideration. The issue which arose under consideration was whether deduction on account of NCB, allowed by the insurance company from the insurance premium payable by insured whether it can be considered as what? Consideration for supply of service. Whether it can be said to be consideration for supply of service provided by the insured to the insurance company for what? Agreeing to the obligation to refrain from the act of lodging what? Insurance claim during the previous year. Whether it can be considered. So here, what they have said, as per the practice prevailing in the insurance sector, the insurance company deduct NCB from the gross insurance premium amount where no claim is made by the insured person during the previous year insurance periods. The customer or the insured procures insurance policy to indemnify himself from any loss or injury as per the terms of the policy, and is not under any contractual obligation. He is not under any contractual obligation not to take claim insurance during any period covered under the policy in lieu of, say, NCB. Okay. So they say that the customer basically, the insured, they procure insurance policy. Why they are procuring? To indemnify himself for the loss or the injury as per the terms of policy, and is not under any contractual obligation. He is not under any contractual obligation not to claim insurance claim in and during any period covered under the policy in lieu of NCB. It is therefore clarified. It is therefore clarified that there is no supply provided. There is no supply provided by the insured to the insurance company, by the insured to the insurance company in, say, form of what? Agreeing to the obligation to refrain from act of lodging insurance claim during the previous year. So this is the basic clarification. It is therefore what? Clarified that there is no supply provided by the insurance company in form of agreeing to the obligation to refrain from an act of lodging insurance claim during the previous year, and NCB cannot be considered as consideration. NCB cannot be considered as a consideration for supply provided by the insured to the insurance company. So fundamental, you remember that no supply of service by insured to the insurance company in lieu of NCB offered by the said insurance company to him. So no supply of service by the insured to the insurance company in lieu of NCB offered by the said insurance company to him. So this is one. Then second one, in relation to what? Charge of GST. You know, if any central government, state government, say union territory or local authority, provide any services to a business entity, which is a registered business entity, okay, reverse charge mechanism is there. Reverse charge mechanism is there. RCB is there, reverse charge mechanism, section 9(3) we have discussed. Now here, within the meaning of central government and state government, they have already covered, say, parliament. They have covered parliament and state legislature. There also, if parliament or state legislature, say in case they are providing any services to a business entity, reverse charge mechanism is applicable. Now, the amendment has been made. What amendment? What is the amendment made? Remember now, courts and tribunals, central government and state government, for the purpose of RCM, it shall include what? Shall include courts and tribunal. They will include what? Courts and tribunal also. So here, if courts and tribunal, say, if court or tribunal is providing, say, renting of immovable property service, say they are providing renting of immovable property service, and the same has been provided to a registered person, then reverse charge mechanism will be applicable. So we can see this, there is an amendment in the notification number 13/2017. What amendment has been made? That within the explanation which has been provided, that central government and state government, they shall also basically include what? The, courts and tribunals. They will include what? Court and tribunal. So the provision has now been extended. Basically, this provision of reverse charge mechanism has now been extended to court and tribunal also in respect of taxable services supplied by them, such as, say, renting of premises to telecommunication companies for installation of towers, renting of chambers to lawyers. So this amendment has been made with effect from 1st of March 23. This amendment has been made with effect from 1st of March 23. Now they have clarified that, the central government and state government, The notification provisions which apply to central government and state government, they shall also apply to parliament, state legislatures, government, say courts and tribunal. So remember here, reverse charge mechanism notification will apply to what? Courts and tribunal also. So this is, we have discussed, this is a amendment which has been made in reverse charge notification, which has been made effective from 1st of March 23. So here courts and tribunal, if they are providing any services, they will be covered under the RCM notification. Then, so next amendments are with relating to chapter of exemption. So let us now discuss what amendments have been made relating to exemption chapter. Now a very, very important amendment has been made in entry number 12. Very, very important amendment. What is entry 12 is stating? Say it is what? Services of what? Renting of, earlier it was renting of residential dwelling for purpose of residence. Earlier what it was? Renting of residential dwelling for purpose of residence. If the same was to an unregistered person, it was exempt. Then if it was for registered person, same was taxable. It was to registered person, it was taxable, and it was taxable under reverse charge mechanism. It was taxable under reverse charge mechanism. Now this exemption has been given to a registered person. Also, exemption has been extended to registered person also. If this registered person is sole proprietor, he is a sole proprietor, and his renting has been done for his own use and not for business use. Renting has been done for his own use and not for, say, business use. So basic fundamental thing is, say I am a sole proprietor, I am running professional services, and I have taken a house on rent, not for the business use, not for my employees, etc., but I am taking that for my own use, for my own residence. I have taken the same on rent. Then this services will be exempt from tax. So first of all, this is an exemption which has been made with effect from 1st of January, 23. Services by way of renting of residential dwelling. Services by way of renting of residential dwelling for use as a residence is exempt, except where the residential dwelling is rented to a registered person. It was prevalent. Now they have given, explanation has been provided for the same. What explanation states? That for the purpose of exemption under this entry, this entry shall cover services, by way of renting of residential dwelling, to a registered person, by way of, say, renting of residential dwelling to a registered person, where the registered person is a proprietor of proprietorship concern. Registered person is whom? Registered person is a proprietor of, say, proprietorship concern and rents the residential dwelling in his personal capacity. Okay? For use as his own residence. He is renting in his personal capacity for use as his own residence, and such renting is on his own account and not that of the proprietorship concern. So he is not taking for the proprietorship concern use, he is renting the residential dwelling for his own use, for his own residence, then the exemption will be available. Then we have seen that if their services, say by way of access, the services by way of access to road or bridge on payment of annuity, which was earlier exempt, this exemption has now been withdrawn. This exemption has now been withdrawn with effect from 1st of January 23. So it will be what liable to GST. Then if any educational institution, as we have seen, Central Board of Secondary Education or say state educational boards, they are regarded as what? Now we are discussing about a very, very important exemption here, educational services, the most important exemption, as you are aware. So many times it has been asked in the examination of the institute. So Central Board of Secondary Education and state education boards, they are what? Basically what? They are regarded as educational institution. They are regarded as what? Educational institution. Why they are regarded as educational institution? For what? For the purpose of so here the Central Board of Secondary Education and State Board of Education, they are educational institutions for the limited purpose of say conduct of examination. They are educational institution for the limited purpose of conduct of entrance examination for admission to the educational institutions. So now they have further given the benefit to whom the say National Testing Agency NTA. It is conducting JEE Advanced, JEE examinations, entrance, or say NEET examination, entrance examination. So basically this NTA or say any other authority body or say board, if any authority body or board is say set up by the government, central government or state government, they will also be regarded as what? They will be regarded as educational institution for the limited purpose of say conduct of entrance examination for admission to the educational institutions. So like NTA, these any authority, board or body, the same has been set up by central government or state government. So with effect from 1st of March 23, this this notification relating to educational services that has been amended. Now it clarifies that. What it clarifies is, it clarifies that any authority, board or body, any authority, board or body set up by the central government or state government, set up by the central government or state government, including National Testing Agency, for conduct of entrance examination for admission to educational institution shall be treated as an educational institution for limited purpose of providing service by way of conduct of entrance examination for admission to the educational institution. So it will be regarded as what? It will be regarded as an educational institution. It will be regarded as an educational institution. What? That National Testing Agency or say any statutory authority, board or body, for what purpose? It will be regarded as an educational institution for conduct of entrance examination for admission to the educational institution. Then relating to one clarification has been issued relating to what the accommodation services which have been supplied by Air Force mess or other similar messes to the personnel. As you are aware that in case if any central government or state government or union territory or say local authority, they provide services to individuals. They are providing services to individuals, that is persons other than business entities to non-business entities. The same has been made exempt. The same are exempt except the services which have been provided by Department of Post or say transport of goods or passengers, So here this if Air Force mess is there, or other say whether it's a Navy or say Army, Navy or say paramilitary, police force, etc., and they are providing accommodation services, the same will also be exempt provided they fall under entry 6, within the purview of entry 6. So the issue which arose for clarification is to whether GST is payable on the accommodation services supplied by Air Force mess to its personnel. So basically clarification has been issued that all services supplied by the central government, state government, union, territory or local authority to any person other than business entities, except say services which are provided by Department of Post, transportation of goods or passengers, the same are say exempt. All services are exempt if they are provided to individuals, non-business entities. Okay. Therefore, it is hereby clarified that the accommodation services provided by Air Force Mess and other similar messes, provided by Air Force Mess and other similar messes such as Army Mess, Navy Mess, Paramilitary and Police Force Mess, Army Mess, Navy Mess, Paramilitary and Police Force Mess to their personnel or any other person other than a business entity, they are covered under entry 6, provided the services supplied by such messes qualify to be considered as services supplied by what? Central government, state government, union, territory or local authority. So these services will be say exempt from GST. These services will be say exempt from GST. Next is the exemption chapter we have discussed. Next is relating to place of supply. Now, as you are aware, section 12(8), it determines what? Place of supply of transportation of goods. Say, including mail courier, now here is the same is supplied to registered person, is the same is supplied to registered person, place of supply is location of such person, place of supply is what? Location of such person. And in case if it is provided to unregistered person, what is the place of supply? The place of supply is what? The place where the goods are handed over to for their transportation, to the service supplier for their transportation. That will be the place. But a proviso is there under 12(8). What proviso provides is, if goods are, say, for transportation of goods, basically, transportation of goods is to a place outside India, then what will be the place of supply? In that case, the place of supply will be what? The destination of goods, though this proviso has been omitted by the Finance Act from the date yet to be notified, but the place of supply is basically destination of goods in that case. So basically destination of goods. In that case, export freight is not taxable, as the place of supply is destination of the goods. Now here, you know, a clarification has been issued in this regard. Let us see what the issues were, and basically it was in relating to the input tax credit, whether if the place of supply is outside India and say whether you will be entitled to take what? The ITC if say GST is levied. Okay. So let us see what section 12(8) is. So 12(8) of the IGST Act provides that the place of supply of services by way of transportation of goods, including by mail or courier, to a registered person shall be location of such a registered person, where the location of supplier and say as well as the recipient is in say India. Okay. Then, however, the proviso to the aforesaid subsection provides that where the transportation of goods is to a place outside India, then what happens? The place of supply of service shall be the place of destination of goods. Since in such cases, place of supply is concerned foreign destination and not the state where the recipient is registered under GST, issue was regarding the availability of ITC. Now, if export freight, when it will not be taxable, when they satisfy the conditions. If they satisfy the conditions of what? Export of services. But here, if conditions are not satisfied, then it won't be regarded as export and it will be chargeable to tax. So when it is chargeable to tax, then in that particular circumstance, you know, this amendment, this export freight that was exempt up to 3922. Okay. This exemption has been withdrawn from 3922. So now the issue is, in case of, say, the issue and the clarification we will be discussing, in case, say, supply of services by way of transportation of goods, including mail or courier, where transportation of goods is to a place outside India, and where the supplier and recipient of said supply of services are located in India, what will be the place of supply? So here the place of supply will be the destination of goods. So here the place of supply of services by way of transportation of goods, including mail or courier, where, say, both the supplier and recipient are located in India, is determined as per the provisions of section 12(8) of the IGST Act, and 12(8) of the IGST Act provides that the place of supply will be, say, if the same is provided to a registered person, it is the location of person. If it is provided to a person other than registered person, it will be the location where the goods are handed over for their transportation. However, where the transportation of goods is to a place outside India, where the transportation of goods is to a place outside India, the place of supply shall be what? The destination of goods. The place of supply here is, the place of supply is the destination of goods, as per proviso to section 12(8). As in case of supply of services by way of transportation of goods, including mail or courier, where the transportation of goods is to a place outside India, and where the supplier and recipient of the said supply of services, they are supplier and recipient, they are located in India, the place of supply will be what? Is concerned foreign destination where the goods are being transported in accordance with the proviso to section 12(8). The place of supply will be what? The concerned foreign destination. Okay, the place of supply is the concerned foreign destination. So for example, X is a person. X is a person registered under GST in the state of West Bengal. X is a person registered under GST in the state of West Bengal who intends to export the goods to Y located in Singapore. X is a person registered under GST in the state of West Bengal. They intend to export the goods to Y located in Singapore. Now X avails the services of transportation of goods by air to Singapore from air cargo operator Z. They are availing services from whom? The air cargo operator Z. So here, say X is in West Bengal. He wants to transport the goods to Y. Y is located where? In Singapore. Now they are availing the services air cargo operator Z. Air cargo operator Z, it is also registered in West Bengal. They are providing services to this. So as per 12(8) proviso, what will be the place of supply? Place of supply will be the destination of goods. Destination of goods here is Singapore. Place of supply is the destination of goods. Destination of goods is, say, Singapore. The exemption, as we have seen, has been now no more available after 3922, as I already told you. So here the place of supply will be Singapore. In given case above, whether the supply of services will be treated as interstate supply or, say, intrastate supply. So when we see, when the, the supply here will be deemed to be, say, interstate supply. The place of supply is what? Outside India. A location of supplier is in India. And place of supply is outside India. Location of supplier, this is what? Air cargo operator. So this is basically an interstate supply. This is basically an interstate supply. This is interstate supply, and the same will be subject to, say, IGST. It will be subject to IGST. So in case, in the given case, say in one above, whether the supply of services will be treated as interstate supply or intrastate supply. So here the aforesaid supply of services would be considered as interstate supply. It would be considered as interstate supply in terms of section 7(5) of the IGST Act, since the location of supplier basically is in India and place of supply is outside India. It will be considered as what? An interstate supply. Therefore, IGST would be chargeable. IGST would be chargeable on said supply of service. So here, the supplier of service will charge IGST. Supplier of service will charge IGST from the recipient. Next question is in the given case, in case given in 1 above, whether the recipient of service of transportation of goods would be eligible to avail ITC. Now, whether the recipient is eligible to avail ITC of what? The input service of, say, transportation of goods, whether he is eligible to avail ITC. Now, we can take the ITC. When we are entitled to take the ITC, first of all, if we fulfill the conditions of section 16, that is eligibility and conditions of section 16, and then section 17(5) states that the ITC must not be blocked. The ITC must not be blocked. Now, here basically, even if the place of supply is of service is outside India, then also the service recipient can avail ITC of the IGST paid on input services. So it doesn't matter if whether the place of supply is outside India, here ITC can be availed. So section 16 basically lays down the eligibility and conditions for taking the ITC, whereas section 17 provides the apportionment and of the credit and blocked credit under circumstances therein. So the said provisions of law do not restrict the availment of ITC by recipient located in India if the place of supply of said input services outside India. They do not restrict the availment of ITC by the recipient located in India if the place of supply of said input service outside India. Thus, the recipient of services of transportation of goods shall be eligible to avail ITC in respect of the IGST so charged by the supplier, subject to the fulfillment of the conditions which have been laid down in section 16 and 17 of the CGST Act. So, therefore, X would be what? Eligible to take the ITC of the IGST in respect of supply of services received by him from Z, subject to the fulfillment of the conditions which have been laid down in section 16 and 17 of the CGST Act. The next chapter is relating to value of supply. As we have already discussed about the no claim bonus which is given by insurance company to insured. Okay, if no claim is lodged in previous financial year or years. So, if I am paying insurance premium of 20,000 rupees, I have not lodged any claim. They give us NCB no claim bonus of say 4,000 rupees, 20% NCB is there. Whether GST is paid on 20,000 rupees or 16,000 rupees, that was the issue. So, here NCB is just in the nature of discount which is provided under section 15(3)(a). The same has been provided under 15(3)(a). So, NCB basically is in the nature of discount which has been provided under 15(3)(a). Basically, it is given in the policy document itself that if you do not lodge any claim, we will provide you discount. Then same is also shown separately in the invoice. So, here the conditions of 15(3)(a) is fulfilled. Therefore, this NCB will be allowed as deduction and GST will be payable on the net premium which is required to be paid after deduction of the no claim bonus. So, here basically the circular states that no claim bonus permissible as deduction under section 15(3)(a) for the purpose of calculation of value of supply of insurance services provided by insurance company to the insured. So, NCB is permissible deduction. So, let us see what the circular clarifies. The issue which arose for clarification was whether no claim bonus provided by the insurance company to the insured can be considered as an admissible discount for the purpose to determine the value of supply of insurance service provided by the insurance company to the insured, whether it can be considered as what? The permissible discount. Now, as per section 15.3a, the value of supply shall not include what? Any discount. Value of supply shall not include any discount which is given before or at the time of supply. Any discount which is given before or at the time of supply, if such discount has been, say, duly recorded in the invoice issued in respect of such supply. So here the insurance company basically they make disclosure of the fact of the availability of discount in form of NCB subject to certain conditions to the insured in insurance policy document itself, and also provide the details of NCB in the invoice also. So the pre-disclosure of NCB amount in the policy documents and the specific mention of the discount in form of NCB is therefore in consonance with the conditions laid down for the deduction, okay, of discount from the value of supply under 15.3a. So they are fulfilling the conditions. It's therefore clarified that NCB is what? A permissible deduction. NCB is a permissible deduction under 15.3a for the purpose of calculation of value of supply of the insurance services which have been provided by the insurance company to the insured. So you have to pay GST on 16,000 rupees and not 20,000 rupees. Accordingly, where deduction is on account of NCB is provided in the invoice issued by the insurer to the insured, GST shall be leviable on the actual insurance premium amount payable by the policyholder to the insurer after deduction of what? NCB, which has been mentioned in the invoice. Next is, say, we are promoting what? RuPay debit card transactions, Bhim UPI transactions. These are promoted. So low value transaction, say up to rupees 2,000, they are promoted in form of that. How they are basically promoted, that the person making or receiving payment through RuPay debit card or Bhim UPI of low value transaction, they will not be charging any fees or say charges from the person making such transaction. And basically the government of India, they give incentive to the acquiring banks. In this particular circumstance, whether this incentive can be regarded as a consideration, the issue was this, whether this incentive which has been paid by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology to the acquiring banks under this incentive scheme can be regarded as consideration. Bola, no. Actually, they are not providing any service to the government, and this is an incentive. So if any, say, subsidy is received, this is in the nature of subsidy, is received by service supplier from central government or state government, it will not be included in the value of supply. Basically, it is not a consideration also as per the provisions of 231. Same cannot be regarded as consideration. So this whatever incentive is received, the same is not leviable to GST. So here the issue which arose for clarification is whether GST is applicable on the incentive paid by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology to the acquiring banks under the incentive scheme for promotion of RuPay debit card and low value BHIM UPI transactions. So basically under the incentive scheme for promotion of RuPay debit card and low value BHIM UPI transaction, the government pays the acquiring banks an incentive as a percentage of value of RuPay debit card transactions and low value BHIM UPI transactions up to rupees say 2000. Okay. The Payment and Settlements of Systems Act prohibit the banks and the system providers for charging any amount from a person who is making or say receiving a payment through RuPay debit card or say BHIM UPI transactions. Now here the service which is supplied by the acquiring bank in the digital payment system in case of transactions through RuPay and BHIM UPI is same as the service that they provide in case of transactions through any other card or other mode of digital payment. The only difference is that the consideration for such service, instead of being paid by the merchant or the user of the card, is paid by central government in form of incentive. Now basically, however, it is not a consideration paid by the central government for service supplied by the acquiring bank to the government. It is not a consideration. The incentive is in the nature of subsidy. Incentive basically is nature of subsidy directly linked to the price of service, and same does not form the part of taxable value of transaction as per the provisions of 231 and section 15. It won't be included in the value. It is same is not included in value. It's hereby clarified that incentives paid by MEIT, that is Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology, to the acquiring banks under the incentive scheme for promotion of RuPay debit card and low value BHIM UPI transactions, the same is in the nature of subsidy and hence it won't be taxable. So this is the clarification, final clarification. You have to see, it is hereby clarified that you have to remember from examination point of view that MEITY to the acquiring banks under the incentive schemes for promotion of RuPay debit card and low value BHIM UPI transaction, the same is in the nature of subsidy and not taxable. It is the nature of subsidy and not taxable. Okay. The very, very important chapter, input tax credit. Now, first of all, say you remember that in case recipient, in case the recipient do not make payment to the supplier within 180 days from date of invoice, as you have seen in section 16 to second proviso, read with rule 37, that if the recipient do not make payment to the supplier within 180 days from the date of invoice, then input tax credit is required to be reversed. Say, I have taken a credit of 1,80,000 rupees. Okay, the total bill amount was say 11,80,000 rupees. Total bill amount was 11,80,000 rupees. And we have not paid, entire amount of 11,80,000 rupees has not been paid. So 1,80,000 rupees is required to be reversed by the recipient along with the interest that has been provided. Now what happens is, say this is required to be reversed. Say if they have not made proportionate payment, that is what, say out of 11,80,000 rupees, 50% payment has been made, 50% payment has not been made, or 40% payment has been made, rest 60% not been paid. So in case of proportionate payment, whether entire ITC is to be reversed or not. Whether entire ITC is to be reversed or not is the issue. Whether the entire ITC or proportionate ITC is to be reversed. So they have now very much clarified that, say if out of 11,80,000 rupees, say we have made a payment of 40%, 60% is still outstanding. So 7,08,000 is still outstanding. 180 days have expired. So the ITC to be reversed will be 180 divided by 1180 into, that is ITC to be reversed will be what? 1,08,000. 60% ITC is required to be reversed. This has been clarified. One clarification is this. It is not the entire 180 is to be reversed, but proportionate ITC will be required to be reversed along with the interest, and whenever subsequently the payment is made, the recipient will be entitled to avail the input tax credit. So here, as you are aware that second proviso to section 16(2), that is providing for if you do not make payment to the registered supplier within 180 days from the date of invoice, you are required to reverse the ITC. Now here, if part payment has been made, part payment has not been made, then proportionate ITC will be required to be reversed. So second proviso to section 16(2) read with rule 37, provides that the registered person must pay to the supplier the value of goods or service along with the tax within 180 days from the date of the issue of invoice. However, a registered person who has availed the ITC on any inward supply fails to pay to the supplier thereof the amount toward the value of supply plus the tax thereon within 180 days from the date of invoice. Basically, he shall pay an amount equal to the ITC availed in respect of such supply along with the interest. However, it gave the impression that whole of the ITC pertaining to such supply was to be reversed, even though a part of the payment could have been made by the recipient to the supplier. That appeared to be an inadvertent departure from the principle of proportionate reversal under the original rule. Consequently, Rule 37(1) has been amended retrospectively. They have amended the rule retrospectively with effect from 1st of October 22 to provide that for reversal of an amount of the ITC proportionate to what the amount paid by the recipient to the supplier vis-a-vis the invoice value. So a registered person who has availed the ITC on any inward supply of goods or service or both, other than the supplies on which tax is payable under RCM, but fails to pay to the supplier thereof the amount towards what? The value of such supply, whether wholly or partly, along with the tax payable thereon, within the time specified in second proviso to section 16(2), that is within 180 days from the date of invoice, he shall pay or reverse an amount equal to the ITC availed in respect of supply, proportionate to the amount not paid to the supplier. So he will be required to reverse proportionate to the amount not paid to the supplier, along with what? The interest payable thereon under section 50, while furnishing the return in form GSTR 3B for the tax period immediately following the period of 180 days from the date of the issue of invoice. So he will be required to reverse what? Proportionate ITC along with interest if part payment has been made. Now next is relating to what? The reversal of the ITC in case of non-payment of tax by the supplier. Now this is very, very important. So new rule 37A has been inserted. This is very, very important. New rule 37A. Now here what is happening here is, say this is a registered supplier. From we have purchased the inputs. We are the recipient. We have purchased the inputs, say 1 lakh rupees inputs is there, 18,000 is the GST so charged. We have made the payment to the registered supplier 1,18,000 rupees, and he has furnished his GSTR1. And we have this same has been reflected in our GSTR2B, and we have taken the credit of 18,000 rupees. We have made payment to the registered supplier. Now what happens is, these supplies he has not filed return GSTR 3B of say relating to these supplies, the return has not been filed. Till what? Till 30th. This registered supplier has not filed this return 3B till 30th September following the end of the financial year. Say financial year is 20XXXY, financial year is 20XXXY, and he has not filed the return up to 30th of September 20XY. So here now what will happen? We have made the payment, still we will be required, we are the recipient, we are required, recipient is required basically to reverse the ITC. The ITC by 30th November, following the end of the financial year. The 30th November 20XY, we have to reverse the ITC. Okay. And in case we do not reverse the ITC, then interest will also be levied. Interest will be levied at rate of 18% per annum after 30th November till the date of the reversal. And we will be re-entitled when this GSTR 3B has been, say, furnished by the, the recipient, supplier, basically registered supplier. So here, new rule has been inserted that here the recipient will be required to reverse the ITC if the supplier, registered supplier, do not make payment of the tax. And then when the registered supplier makes the payment of the tax and furnishes GSTR 3B indicating such supplies, then he will be entitled to re-avail the ITC. So newly inserted rule 37A covers a situation where a registered person, that is the recipient, avails the ITC in his GSTR 3B for a tax period in respect of which the invoice or debit note, the details of which has been furnished by its supplier in the statement of outward supplies in form using GSTR 1, in the form using GSTR 1 or using the invoice furnishing facility. However, the supplier does not furnish the return in form GSTR 3B. Supplier does not furnish the return in form GSTR 3B for the tax period corresponding to the said statement of the outward supplies, till 30th September following the end of the financial year in which the ITC in respect of such invoice or debit note has been availed. He has not furnished the return till 30th of the September. In such case, the said amount of ITC shall be reversed by the recipient while furnishing return in form GSTR 3B on or before 30th November following the end of financial year. He is required to reverse the same on or before, say, 30th November following the end of the financial year, during which such ITC has been availed, and then where the said amount of ITC is not reversed by the recipient, such amount shall be payable by the said person along with interest under section 50. Then subsequently he will be liable to pay interest also. Further, where the said supplier subsequently furnishes the return in form GSTR 3B, the said tax, for the said tax period, the registered person may re-avail the amount of such credit in the return in form GSTR 3B for the tax period thereafter. So this was very, very important amendment which has been made relating to what? The this rule 37A has been inserted. If you have made payment to the supplier, but supplier has not furnished his GSTR 3B, you will be required to reverse, your ITC. And when the supplier furnishes GSTR 3B after 30th of September, you will be entitled to what? Avail the ITC in respect of the same. Now next chapter is registration. Basically, fundamental amendments which have been made in registration is just in relation to the procedure for obtaining registration. Earlier, when you were making the application for registration, you have to give the mobile number and email ID. Now, amendment has been made. Because of the fake registrations, they have made an amendment that this mobile number and email ID will be what taken by the system from the CBDT database. That is what? PAN linked mobile number and email ID. PAN linked mobile number and email ID will be there. The OTP one time password will be sent to this PAN linked email ID. One more thing, they have a pilot project starting with the state of Gujarat with dealing with what? Biometric based Aadhaar authentication. So consequential amendment has been made in the rules in this regard, enabling what? Biometric based Aadhaar authentication, okay, and physical verification of the registered applicants. And we have seen that in case if Aadhaar authentication is there, which is successful, then they won't be coming to the your premises for physical verification. Now, if having regard to the risk-based transactions and say other criteria, they can go and conduct what? Physical verification of premises. So consequential amendments have been made dealing with the registration. So this is just procedural compliance, procedural registration compliances, changes are there. So let us start with. So what are the amendments relating to the procedure of registration? So Rule 8 and Rule 9. Rule 8 and Rule 9 has been amended. These Rule 8 and Rule 9 has been amended to what? To carry out the following amendments. Number 1 is PAN linked mobile number. PAN linked mobile number and email address which is fetched from CBDT database will be captured and recorded in Form GST RE01, and one-time password-based verification will be conducted at the time of registration on such PAN-linked mobile number and email address to restrict the misuse of PAN of a person by unscrupulous elements without the knowledge of the PAN holder. It's a PAN-linked mobile number. So OTP will be sent to the PAN-linked mobile number and email address to restrict the misuse of PAN of a person by unscrupulous elements without the knowledge of the said PAN holder. Besides this, a pilot project is to be conducted in the state of Gujarat for biometric-based Aadhaar authentication and risk-based physical verification of the registration applicants. So therefore, amendment have been made in Rule 8 and 9 to facilitate the same. This will help in tackling the menace of fake and these fraudulent registrations. So here, what is basically, this is just a repetition procedure for registration which we already discussed. So here, every person registered, basically liable to be registered, that is compulsory registration, or the person who is seeking voluntary registration shall, before applying for registration, he will have to declare his permanent account number. Earlier it was mobile number was there mentioned and email was also there, but now this has been omitted. They have to give their permanent account number, state and union territory in Part A of Form GST RE01 on the common portal. Then PAN is validated online by the common portal from CBDT database. PAN is validated from the CBDT database and it also to be verified through separate one-time passwords which are sent on the PAN linked mobile number and email address. So here separate one-time password will be sent to the PAN linked mobile number and email address. Then temporary reference number is generated. Temporary reference number is generated and communicated to the applicant on the validated mobile number and email address. Using the temporary reference number, applicant shall electronically submit the application in part B of the application form. He has to give the details relating to what the constitution of the business, then what is his jurisdiction, then whether he wants to opt for composition scheme or not, what is the date of commencement of business, what are the reasons for obtaining registration, what is the principal place of business, address of the principal place of business, then details of the additional place of business, what is the nature of business activity carried out, details of bank account, details of authorized signatory, Aadhaar authentication, etc. Then on receipt of the application, an acknowledgement in the prescribed form shall be sent to the applicant electronically. A casual taxable person applying for registration gets a temporary reference number. Casual registration taxable person, he has to make the advance deposit of the estimated tax liability through e-cash ledger. Therefore, he will get a temporary reference number, okay, for making advance deposit of estimated tax liability, in his electronic cash ledger, and this acknowledgement will be generated only when he makes this advance deposit of the estimated tax liability. Then this application will be forwarded to the proper officer. Now what happens is the proper officer examines the application. And if the documents are found in order, the application is found in order, then registration will be granted within 7 working days. Registration will be granted within 7 working days from the date of submission of application without site verification in case the applicant successfully undergoes Aadhaar authentication. So if the applicant successfully undergoes Aadhaar authentication, then in that particular circumstance, the registration will be granted within, say, 7 working days from the date of submission of the application. But in case he does not opt for Aadhaar authentication, or if he opts for Aadhaar authentication, but there is failure to undergo the Aadhaar authentication, or where, say, proper officer deems it necessary to go for carrying out the site verification, or even if a person has undergone Aadhaar authentication, but on the basis of data analysis and risk parameters, it is necessary to go and carry out, say, physical verification of the premises, then in that particular circumstance, the registration will be granted within, say, 30 days of the application after verification of site and the prescribed documents. So in case the applicant fails to undergo Aadhaar authentication or does not opt for Aadhaar authentication, or say where the, say, proper officer deems it fit to carry out site verification, or where the person has undergone Aadhaar authentication. This is the amendment, remember, where the person has undergone the Aadhaar authentication and is identified on common portal based on data analysis and risk parameters to carry out the site verification. Then the RC registration will be granted within 30 days of the application after verification of the site and prescribed documents. Now we have submitted the application for registration, but the proper officer issues a notice, thereby seeking clarification, information, documents from the applicant electronically, because he finds that the documents, they are not in order. Then in that particular circumstance, he will issue a notice. How many days? Within a period of 7 working days from the date of submission of the application in normal circumstances, or say within a period of 30 days from the date of submission of the application for registration, where the person fails to undergo Aadhaar authentication or does not opt for Aadhaar authentication, or say where the proper officer deems it fit to carry out site verification, or say where the person who has undergone the Aadhaar authentication is identified on the common portal based on data analysis and risk parameters to carry out the site verification. Okay. in this case. Then if the notice has been issued, the applicant will furnish the information so asked for within 7 working days of the receipt of the notice. Okay. So here basically clarifications includes modification of the particulars which have been declared in the application other than PAN, state code, mobile number, state code, email, mobile number and email. So that will not be, amended. So here, if he furnishes the reply to the notice within 7 working days from the receipt of the notice, then in case if the proper officer is satisfied with the documents so furnished, the reply so furnished, then the proper officer will grant the registration within say 7 days from the date of the receipt of information, clarification or documents. In case the concerned person do not reply, or if the proper officer is not satisfied with the reply, then he may reject the application for the reasons to be recorded in writing. So this is the basic procedure which we have discussed. Now here, when the application will be deemed to have been approved, say in case number B. So first of all, when we have gone for the Aadhaar authentication, successful Aadhaar authentication is there and they have not taken any action, say within 7 working days from the date of submission of the application for registration has been deemed to have been approved. In cases listed in B above, B are which cases where we do not opt for Aadhaar authentication, or there is a failure of Aadhaar authentication, or say Aadhaar authentication is there but they want to make based on data analysis and risk parameters, they have to say make further inquiry, and here if they want to go out to carry out the physical verification of the premises, then they have to do this activity within 30 days, and in case if the activity is not done within physical verification of the premises with the documents is not done within 30 days from the date of submission of the application, then the registration application must be deemed to have been approved. And say if they have given a notice and you have not you have replied to the notice within a period of say 7 working days from the receipt of the clarification information and document, if they do not grant registration, then registration will be deemed to have been granted. So thus in case of successful authentication of Aadhaar, if successful authentication of Aadhaar and no SCN is being issued, the registration will be deemed to be approved within say 7 working days. However, if Aadhaar authentication is not opted for, or Aadhaar authentication fails in validation, or proper officer deems it fit to carry out the site verification and no SCN is issued, registration will be deemed to be approved within say 30 days. In case the officers issue a show cause notice, replies furnished by us within 7 days of the receipt of the notice, but they do not take any further action within 7 days of the receipt of the reply, then in that particular circumstance, the registration will be deemed to have been say approved. Then Aadhaar authentication is there. We are having, this is just a repetition which we have already discussed in our normal class, that is 25 6A, 6B, 6C, 6D, read with rule 8, 9, 10B and 23. So this is just a repetition. Let us once more revise the same. So as soon as seen above, there is a simplified registration procedure under GST. However, this early easy registration procedure, it was duly misused by the certain flight by night operators. They were taking fake input tax credit, fake refunds they were claiming. Thus, in an endeavor to curb or check such operators and to increase compliance, Aadhaar eKYC based registration. Aadhaar eKYC based registration, the same has been introduced under the GST law. Aadhaar authentication is mandatory. As you are aware that Aadhaar authentication is mandatory for new applicants, whether an individual applicant or an applicant other than individual, in order to be eligible for grant of registration. So Aadhaar authentication process has been introduced for the persons who are applying for GST registration as a normal taxpayer, as a composition taxpayer, as a casual taxable person, input service distributor, sales developer, sales unit. So everyone except NRTP, because they are not having the Aadhaar number. So here existing registrants, those who have already been registered under GST, existing registrations, those who have already been registered under GST, they are also required to undergo Aadhaar authentication. They are also required to undergo Aadhaar authentication. So how the Aadhaar authentication is done? Now, this how the Aadhaar authentication is done. So, while filing the application for registration, so the applicant has to opt whether he wants to go for Aadhaar authentication or not. The applicants get an option as to whether he wants to opt for Aadhaar authentication or not. Then in case if he opts for yes for say Aadhaar authentication, the system will send a authentication link on the mobile numbers and the email IDs. Here, which has been say linked with the CBDT database of the promoter, partner, of the promoters and the partners authorized signatories which are selected by the applicant. We have to get say one primary authorized signatory is there and partner or say promoter is there. So while opting for Aadhaar authentication, the applicant need to select at least one primary authorized signatory and one promoter, partner or karta, director or member for the authentication purposes. Okay, so they have to select at least one primary authorized signatory and one promoter, partner, karta, director or member for the authentication purposes depending upon the entity. Then on clicking the verification link, a window of Aadhaar authentication opens where they will have to enter the Aadhaar number and the OTP is received by them on the mobile number and email address which is linked with the Aadhaar. So they will get the OTP on the mobile number and email linked with the Aadhaar. Once Aadhaar authentication has been successfully validated, his application will be deemed to have been approved within 7 working days and the registration application will be submitted and the registration application submitted by him will not be marked for mandatory site visit because his Aadhaar authentication is successful unless the tax officials raises a show cause notice within the stipulated time. Okay. However, in case where the applicant does not opt for Aadhaar authentication while applying for his registration or where his Aadhaar authentication fails in validation, registration applicant will not be deemed to be approved say within 7 working days and it will be say marked for mandatory site visit and the approval of thereafter by the tax officials. So here the registration will be deemed to be approved as we have already seen after 30 days if the tax officials does not take any action. In case the tax officials raises a show cause notice within 30 calendar days, then the applicant has to submit the reply within 7 working days and the tax officials will take the further action on the basis of reply. So here the tax officials does not take action within 7 working days, then in that particular circumstance his application will be deemed to be approved. Now all the new applicants, they have to go for Aadhaar authentication. Besides this, all the regular taxpayers, composition taxpayers, they have already been registered, they will also have to go for what? Aadhaar authentication. So existing taxpayer can get himself Aadhaar authentication on GST portal either using Aadhaar authentication link or uploading of what? eKYC document. Now here it is not mandatory for every authorized signatory, promoter or partner to get Aadhaar authentication for existing registration. The Aadhaar authentication will be needed only for the one primary authorized signatory and one promoter, partner, karta, director, member as we have already seen. So here who are the, again this is just a repetition, persons required to undergo Aadhaar authentication in case of existing registration. So as per section 25 6A, 6B and 6C, the following persons are required to undergo Aadhaar authentication, that is in case of new applicant, the individual applicant, and in case the applicant is other than individual applicant, okay, then shall undergo authentication or furnish proof of possession of Aadhaar number in the manner prescribed in say rule 8. And the 8.4a provides that where the applicant opts for this authentication of Aadhaar number, he shall while submitting the application for registration undergo authentication of Aadhaar number, and said authentication is required to be eligible for grant of registration. Okay. And what will be the date of submission of the application? Here it is the date of authentication of the Aadhaar number or 15 days from the date of submission of the application in part B, whichever is say earlier. So here the date of submission of the application shall in such cases will be earlier of what? The date of authentication of Aadhaar number, or 15 days from the date of submission of the application in Part B of Form GST REC01. And in case the applicant is an individual, he has to undergo on his own Aadhaar number. In case the applicant is other than an individual, the authentication will be Aadhaar number of the Karta, Managing Director, Whole-Time Director, such number of partners, members or Managing Committee or Association, members of the Managing Committee Association, Board of Trustees, authorized representatives, authorized signatory and other notified class of persons. So basically authorized signatory of all types, managing and authorized partners of partnership firm, Karta of HUF, they have been say notified. Now this is a pilot project which is there going for risk-based biometric Aadhaar authentication of registrant applicants. This is a pilot project in Gujarat. It's initiated in Gujarat and subsequently it will be given all the states. So in order to improve the registration process, biometric based Aadhaar authentication of high risk applicants who opt for authentication of Aadhaar number has been introduced on say pilot basis in the state of Gujarat. An applicant who has opted for authentication of Aadhaar number, the applicant who has opted for authentication of Aadhaar number and is identified on the common portal based on say data analysis and risk parameters shall be followed by biometric based Aadhaar authentication and taking photograph. This is biometric based Aadhaar authentication and taking photograph of the applicant where the applicant is an individual, of such individuals where the applicant is not an individual, along with the verification of original copy of documents which have been uploaded in the application at one of the notified facilitation centers. And the application shall be deemed to be complete only after the completion of the said process, and acknowledgement shall be issued to the applicant only after the completion of the biometric based Aadhaar authentication. Persons already registered, so here also every registered person shall undergo authentication or furnish say proof of Aadhaar number in prescribed form and verified in the prescribed manner and prescribed time limit. The manner in which the Aadhaar authentication need to be done by a registered person, basically a registered person who has been issued a certificate of RC, they shall undergo Aadhaar authentication. So existing registration, Aadhaar number of the proprietor in case of proprietorship firm, partner in case of partnership firm, Karta in case of HUF, managing director, whole-time director in case of company, any member of the managing committee or association of person or body of individual or society or trustee of the board of trustees, and one primary authorized signatory. So these persons and one primary authorized signatory, in order to be eligible for file the application for revocation, if you want to file the application for revocation, for filing of the refund application and for claiming the refund of the IGST paid on the goods which have been exported out of India. Then in case the Aadhaar number has not been assigned, then you have to apply for Aadhaar number, you will be given a provisional acknowledgement for the same, and along with that provisional acknowledgement you can apply, and then whenever the Aadhaar authentication is, Aadhaar number is given, you have to submit the same. So in case of new applicant, if Aadhaar number has not been assigned to new applicant, either he is an individual or person of class of persons other than individual, such individual, person or class of persons shall be offered alternative and viable means for identification. Okay. So here proviso to rule 9(1) provides that a person faced to undergo say Aadhaar authentication or does not opt for Aadhaar authentication, or person who has undergone authentication of Aadhaar number is identified on the common portal on the basis of data analysis and risk parameters. So this is in Gujarat, basically for carrying out the physical verification of the premises, or in case the proper officer wants to carry out the physical verification of the premises. Authorized by the commissioner, not below the rank of the assistant commissioner, they will approve for the physical verification of the premises. The registration will be granted within 30 days of the submission of application, only after physical verification of the principal place of business in presence of said person and verification of the documents. And with the application as applicant submitted under Rule 8 is found to be deficient, then they will give you a notice. How many times? Within 7 working days, you have to reply to the notice. And when you reply to the notice, if they are satisfied with your reply, they will grant the registration. Otherwise, your registration will be, registration application will be, say, rejected. Now, as we have already seen, if the person has not undergone Aadhaar authentication or does not opt for, say, Aadhaar authentication, or person has undergone the Aadhaar authentication in Gujarat, they want to go for further data analysis and risk parameters, or where the proper officer wants to carry out the site verification, then the notice in the prescribed form will be given seeking clarifications, information and documents within 30 days. Okay. And you have to reply within say 30 days of the receipt of the notice. Then in case of already registered persons, if an Aadhaar number is not assigned to an existing registered person, they will be given or they will be offered alternative and viable means for identification in the prescribed manner. And here, if the Aadhaar number has not been assigned to the person who is required to undergo authentication of Aadhaar number, they have to furnish the following: his or her say Aadhaar enrollment ID slip, bank passbook with the photograph, voter identity card, passport, DL, any one of the documents. However, once Aadhaar number has been allotted, then he will be given, he has to say within a period of under 30 days, go for the Aadhaar authentication. In case of failure to go for undergo Aadhaar authentication, furnish proof of Aadhaar number, furnish alternative and viable means for identification, then but natural, whatever registration has been granted to you will become say invalid. Who are the persons who are exempt from Aadhaar authentication? They are what? The persons who are senior, who are not the citizens of India, persons who are say not the citizens of India, then department or establishment of the state government or central government, local authority, statutory bodies, public sector undertakings, or a person who is applying for unique identification number. They are the UN and other international bodies who are claiming what? Refund of the inward supplies made to them. Now, earlier what was happening was this TDS and TCS registration can be cancelled by proper officer only. Now here this Rule 12 has also been amended, which provides that the tax deductor at source and tax collector at source can make an application to the proper officer for cancellation of what? TDS or TCS registration. So earlier as per 12.3, registration granted to persons required to deduct tax at source or to collect tax at source could be cancelled only if upon an inquiry or pursuant to any other proceedings under the CGST Act, the proper officer is satisfied that such person is no longer liable to deduct tax at source or collect tax at source. Thus, there was no option available to the e-commerce operator having a TCS registration to apply for cancellation of the registration. Similarly, no option was given to the tax deductors at source also for applying for cancellation of registration. Now, this 12.3 has been amended. Now, the registration can be cancelled upon request of the tax deductor or tax collector at source. So, where on request made in writing by the person to whom registration has been granted under 12.2 or upon inquiry, that was earlier also, or upon inquiry pursuant to any other proceedings under the CGST Act, the proper officer is satisfied that the person to whom RC has been issued is no longer liable to deduct tax at source under 51 or is no longer required to collect tax at source under 52, then in that particular circumstance, the registration of the said person may be cancelled. Then relating to tax invoice, credit notes and debit notes, as we have seen, what Rule 46 provides is, that is particulars, they are invoice particulars. So basically now they say that the e-commerce operators or supplier of OIDAR services to non-taxable online recipients. Here, their data will be captured. So basically, when they are issuing any invoices to, unregistered persons, even if the value of taxable supply is less than rupees 50,000, even if the value of taxable supply is less than rupees 50,000, they have to indicate, the address of the recipient. This is the unregistered recipient, along with PIN code, okay. So this amendment has been made for capturing, the data. So let us see what is the amendment. Basically, this is the amendment. So where any taxable service is supplied by or through an electronic commerce operator or supplier of OIDAR services to recipient who is unregistered, irrespective of the value of supply, whether it exceeds 50,000 or not, irrespective of value of supply, a tax invoice issued by a registered person shall contain the name and address of the recipient, along with PIN code and name of state, and the said address shall be deemed to be address on record of the recipient. This amendment has been made. Okay. So let us see. So Rule 46 basically prescribes what? The particulars that a tax invoice issued by a registered person should contain. Inter alia, what it must contain, that where the recipient is registered, what it should contain, the name and address and GSTIN or UIN of the recipient. Then in case where the recipient is unregistered, the tax invoice shall contain basically the name and address of the recipient, address of delivery, along with the name of state and code, only where the value of taxable supply exceeds rupees, say, 50,000. And in case where the value of taxable supply is less than 50,000, then the invoice contains such details only when, the recipient requests that details to be recorded in the tax invoice, when the recipient requests for the same. In case of supply of services to unregistered persons, through unregistered persons through what? Supply of services to unregistered persons through online platforms. In particular, recipient's address were not properly captured, basically which affected flow of revenue to the appropriate destination states, because it's GST is a destination based tax. So this was happening. So therefore, now Rule 46F, in 46 clause F, a proviso has been inserted which ensures that mandatory recording of the address of the unregistered recipient of service, along with the PIN code where the said services were provided through a OIDR service supplier, okay, or say e-commerce operator. So where any taxable service is supplied by or through a e-commerce operator, say by or through a e-commerce operator or by supplier of OIDR services, okay, to an unregistered recipient, irrespective of the value of supply. Now it's irrespective of the value of such supply. Tax invoice issued by a registered person, it will contain the name and address of the recipient, along with the state and PIN code and the name of the state, and the particulars shall be deemed to be what? The address on record. Then here, Rule 46A is what? Invoice come bill of supply. If you are making exempted supply, taxable supply, to unregistered person. We are required to issue, say, invoice cum bill of supply. So here this was beginning with the 46A, was beginning with a non-obstinate clause, that is notwithstanding anything contained in rule 46, that was particulars of tax invoice, then 49 bill of supply particulars, and 54 relating to invoices issued by certain service suppliers. So basically 46 prescribes what? The tax invoice issued by registered person, particulars what they contain. 49 basically it contains the particulars which are to be included in the bill of supply, and 54 particulars of invoices which are not issued by notified service suppliers and notified suppliers of goods. So they say that here, now rule 46A basically it was beginning with what? A non-obstinate clause, notwithstanding anything contained in 46 or 49 or 54. A registered person supplying taxable as well as exempted goods or service or both. A registered person supplying taxable as well as exempted goods or service or both to an unregistered person may issue a single invoice cum bill of supply. May issue what? Single invoice cum bill of supply for all such transactions. So basically what was happening was, it may be observed that in this regard that non-obstinate clause in 46A actually removes the obligation on the part of the registered person. It actually removes the obligation on the part of registered person who is supplying, say, taxable as well as exempted goods or service or both to an unregistered person to include particulars as prescribed in 46, 49 or 54 as applicable while issuing single invoice cum bill of supply. Consequently, 46A is amended. Consequently, what is happening here is 46A is basically amended to make obligatory on the part of the registered person who is supplying taxable as well as, say, exempted goods or service or both to unregistered person. They are required to give the particulars of 46, 49 and 54. So here they have given this amendment is what? That is said single invoice cum bill or supply will contain the particulars as prescribed under 46, 54 and 49. Then next amendment is in relation to e-invoicing provision. Now we see that certain class of taxpayers, they are exempt from issuing, say, e-invoice. Say for example, banking companies, they are, it is, say, exempt from issuing e-invoice. Insurance companies, say goods transport agencies, they are travel agents, they are what? Exempt from issuing, say, e-invoices. Then in this particular circumstance, what is happening here is, say if this banking company is providing banking and other financial services, as well as it is also, say, supplying, say, gold. Now here whether e-invoicing provision will be, exemption will be only to banking services or even if to gold which has been supplied by them. So it has now been clarified that exemption is to an entity as a whole, irrespective of the supplies made. It is not restricted to, exemption is not restricted to nature of supply. Exemption is not restricted to nature of supply. So in notification number 13/2020, Central Tax dated 21/3/2020, as amended, certain entities, as we have seen, say SAs, sectors, these banking company, banking companies or say, financial institutions, NBFCs, insurance companies and GTAs, suppliers of the passenger transportation services, then admission to exhibition to cinematograph films, government departments, local authorities, they are exempt from e-invoicing provisions. So they say that they have made exemptions have been provided. So the issue which arose for consideration, what was the issue? The issue which arose for consideration was whether this exemption from mandatory e-invoicing available for entity as a whole, or whether the same is available only in respect of certain supplies which have been made by the entity. Whether it's available to entity as a whole, or whether it is to the supplies made by certain supplies. So here the exemption from generation of e-invoices is for the entity as a whole. Is for the entity as a whole, and basically is not restricted to the by the nature of the supply made by the said entity. This has been clarified. So this has been clarified. For example, a banking company provides banking services may also be involved in making supply of some goods, including bullion. The said banking company is exempted from mandatory issuance of e-invoices in terms of the notification number 13/2020. For all supplies of goods or services, thus they will not be required to issue e-invoice in respect of any supply made by it. So that was in relation to tax invoices. Relating to e-way bill generation. So here now e-way bill is required to be generated for transportation of imitation jewelry. So here earlier the e-way bill is not required to be generated for jewelry, goldsmiths, silversmiths wares and other articles, but exception has been carved out except for transportation of imitation jewelry. So for imitation jewelry, e-way bill is required to be generated. Now relating to payment of tax, a small amendment has been made. That is here, in case bank when failed to communicate the challan identification number details of the taxes which have been paid through e-payment mode to the GST system. So here for updating electronic cash ledger, then that get updated on the basis of what? The e-scroll file. E-scroll file, on that basis that updation takes place in the electronic cash ledger. But there is no provision in the CGST rules for updation of the electronic cash ledger based on the e-scroll of RBI. So here they have made this amendment in the rule 87 sub rule 8, and this insertion has been there that where the bank fails to communicate the details of challan identification number on the common portal, the electronic cash ledger may be updated on the basis of e-scroll of RBI in cases where the details of the said e-scroll, they are in conformity with what? The details of the challan which has been generated in form GST PMT 06 on the common portal. So this amendment has been made. So where basically the bank fails to communicate the details of challan identification number to the common portal, the electronic cash ledger may be updated on the basis of e-scroll of the RBI in cases where the details of e-scroll are made in conformity with details of the challan generated in form GST PMT 06 on the common portal. Then relating to returns, here the maximum late fees payable for delayed filing of annual return, they have been rationalized. Now what is the late fees payable? So depending upon your turnover, so delayed filing of annual return for the registered persons, in case your aggregate turnover exceeds 2 crore rupees, then you are required to file the annual return. So registered persons having aggregate turnover which does not exceed 5 crore rupees, which does not exceed 5 crore rupees, what is the late fees payable now? It is 50 rupees per day, 25 rupees for CGST and 25 rupees for SGST, or 0.4% of the turnover. It is now 0.04% of the turnover in the state or union territory which is lower. So here this is the late fees payable. Then in case if your aggregate turnover exceeds 5 crore rupees but does not exceed 20 crore rupees, it is 100 rupees every day, 50 for CGST and 50 for SGST or 0.04% of the turnover in the state or union territory. Then registered person having aggregate turnover exceeding 20 crore rupees, same fees, 200 rupees every day, 200 rupees every day, during which the failure continues. Basically, it's 100 for CGST and 100 for SGST, and 0.25% of the turnover for CGST and 0.25% of the turnover for SGST, or 0.5% of the turnover of the registered person in the state or union territory, which is say lower. So this is the late fees. You can go through the same. Now this is a very, very important amendment. Now, in case they are saying that new rule 88C has been inserted. New rule 88C has been inserted, that GSTR1, there is a mismatch between GSTR1, the output tax liability as per GSTR1 exceeds what? The tax liability as per GSTR 3B. When they are comparing with 3B and 1 of the relevant tax period, this liability exceeds. Now here the system, the prescribed thresholds will be there. If it exceeds those limits, then a notice will be given, system generated notice will be given, where we have to explain for the differences. We have to explain for the differences why this is a difference in the liability, or you have to pay the differential amount. And in case if this difference is not explained, or this differential amount is not paid, then your automatically blocking will be there of GSTR1, will be say filing of GSTR1 will be automatically blocked by the system. If your GSTR1 is blocked, then 3B will also be say blocked for the subsequent period. So a new rule 88C has been introduced to determine a mechanism for dealing with what? The difference in the liability reported in the statement of outward supply. The difference in the liability reported in the statement of outward supplies between form GSTR1 and form GSTR3B. Accordingly, where the tax liability as per form GSTR1, when the tax liability as per form GSTR1 for a tax period, it exceeds what? The tax liability as per form GSTR3B for that period by more than specified extent, the registered person would be intimated on the portal. The registered person will be given an intimation on the portal and directed either to pay the differential amount of tax with the RC01, then along with the interest, or explain the difference between the specified time. So unless the taxpayer either deposits the amount specified in the said intimation or furnishes a reply explaining the reasons for the amount remaining unpaid, such person would not be allowed to file. Such person would not be allowed to file GSTR1, or he cannot use invoice furnishing facility for subsequent tax period. So there will be blocking of filing of GSTR1 or invoice furnishing facility for subsequent tax period. Okay. So rule 88C, what it reads, where the tax payable by a registered person, in accordance with the statement of outward supplies furnished by him in form GSTR1, or using the invoice furnishing facility in respect of tax period, exceeds the amount of tax payable by a person in accordance with the return for that period furnished in form GSTR3B. So as soon as 3B is furnished, they will work out the difference. By such amount, either by such amount and such percentage as may be recommended by GST Council, the said registered person shall be intimated of such difference. The registered person will be what? Intimated of such difference. The such registered person shall be intimated in prescribed form. Such registered person shall be intimated in prescribed form on a common portal, and copy of such intimation shall be sent to his email address, okay, which has been given at the time of registration. If the said intimation, the difference between GSTR 1 and 3B will be highlighted, and he will be directed to pay the differential tax liability along with interest. Yeah, explain the difference, say, within 7 working days. Within 7 working days, he has to give the reply to the intimation. Such registered person shall, on receipt of the aforesaid intimation, either pay the differential amount of tax liability along with the interest and furnish the details thereof, or he can pay for a certain amount, he can pay certain amount, he can say contest, or he can furnish reply electronically on common portal incorporating the reasons of that part of the differential liability that was remain unpaid within, say, 7 days. And where any amount specified in the said intimation remains unpaid within 7 days period, and no explanation is furnished by the registered person in default, or the explanation furnished is not found to be satisfactory, then what will happen? Recovery will be made as per the provisions of section 79. Beside this, when we see rule 59 relating to filing of the GSTR1, the rule 59(6) amendment has been made here. Further, a registered person to whom such intimation of difference between GSTR1 and 3B for tax period is issued, the same will be blocked from furnishing GSTR1 or using invoice furnishing facility for subsequent tax period unless deposits the amount specified in the intimation or explain the difference of any, if any, for the unpaid amount. In other words, registered person to whom intimation is issued under 88C has been issued on the common portal in respect of tax period shall not be allowed to furnish the details of GSTR1 or using the invoice furnishing facility for subsequent tax period unless he has either deposited the differential amount or has given satisfactory explanation for the same. He has furnishes reply to the satisfaction of the officers. So this was the amendment. This is very, very important amendment, 88C. Remember, this can be asked in your examination. Now relating to refunds. Next is relating to refunds. Now here say what amendment has been made. Unregistered persons can also make application for refund. Say if GST has been paid, say on services, they have made, say payments have been made to service suppliers, okay, then this service contract is say terminated. Service contract is say terminated. And here time limit for credit note, issuance of credit note has been say expired. Then what happens? So here the unregistered person has borne the payment of tax. Supplier says, by the time limit has already expired, now I cannot refund the GST. Say advances you have paid, they have deposited GST, now say afterwards, the service contract get cancelled, they cannot issue credit note because their time limit that has also expired, then the unregistered, they will refund the amount to the unregistered person. We have paid say 10 lakh rupees to builder along with GST of 180, and subsequently this project could not be completed, and we have asked for the refund and timelines for say this period has already expired for issuing the credit note. So in that particular circumstance, the builder may refund the amount, but he will not refund the GST amount. Therefore, enabling provisions have been made that unregistered person can apply for refund here, but he has to give necessary documents along beside this. Supplier will also to certify that he is also not claimed the refund of the amount which is to be refunded to the unregistered person. So 89(2) has been amended for the same. So let us see. This is prescribing the manner of filing application for refund by unregistered persons. Prescribing the manner of filing an application for refund by the unregistered persons. So, there are cases where the unregistered buyers, they have entered into an agreement or contract with a builder. They have entered into an agreement with a builder for supply of services of construction of flats or building, etc. They have paid the amount towards consideration for such service, either fully or partially, along with the applicable tax, and had got the said contract or agreement cancelled, and had to get the agreement or this contract or agreement cancelled subsequently due to non-completion or delay in construction activity in time and other reasons. In number of such cases, the period for issuance of credit note on account of cancellation of service under the provisions of 34 may have already got expired. This is the reason. That is timelines for issuance of credit note that is also expired. Okay. In such cases, supplier may refund the amount of the buyer after deducting the amount of tax collected by him from the buyer. He is refunding only 10 lakh rupees, not 180. He is refunding only 10 lakh rupees. Similar situation may arise in case of long-term insurance policies where premium for entire period of term of policy is paid upfront along with the applicable GST, and policy is subsequently required to be terminated prematurely due to what? Some reasons. Okay, we have paid the premium long term, say for a period of 5 years, but say after 2 years this policy is terminated. Then in that case also the time period for issuance of the credit note of our section 34 may have expired, and therefore the insurance company may refund only what? The proportionate premium net of GST. Basically the time where the time period for issuance of credit note under 34 has not expired at the time of cancellation or say termination of agreement for contract of supply of service, the concerned supplier can issue a credit note to the unregistered person. In such case, supplier would be also in position to pay back the tax collected by him from the unregistered person, and therefore there will be no need of filing the claim by unregistered person in such cases. Logical that he will be refunding the amount along with the tax. Therefore, the unregistered person may not file any refund claim. According to the refund claim can be filed by unregistered person. So here refund claim can be filed by unregistered person only in those cases where the time for cancellation or termination of agreement or contract of supply of services, the period for issuance of credit note has already expired. Then only they can go for what? The refund. So here this is the case. This must be very much clear. The timelines for 34 has expired. Therefore now the supplier is refunding only say 10 lakh in our case. He is not refunding 180. So now we have to make an application for the refund. So hitherto there was no facility which was available to unregistered buyers. Now they have to get temporarily registered and then they can make the application for refund. So there was no facility available to unregistered buyers or recipients for claiming refund of the amount of tax borne by them in event of cancellation of the contract or agreement for supply of construction of flat or say termination of long-term insurance policy. Now section 54(1) provides that any person can claim refund by making an application up to 2 years from relevant date. Up to 2 years from relevant date. Further, in case of 54(8)(e), in case of unregistered person has borne the incident of tax and not passed on the same to any other person, the refund will be paid to him instead of being say credited to consumer welfare fund. Say here doctrine of unjust enrichment is not applicable if unregistered person is claiming refund. Refund will be granted to him. In this case, CA certificate will not be required. Will not be required. So thus, in order to enable such unregistered person, to file what an application for refund under 54(1) in situations discussed as we have seen above, a new functionality has been made available on the common portal, which allows what unregistered persons to have a take temporary registration, unregistered persons to take what temporary registration, and they can apply for refund, that is refund for unregistered persons in form GST RFD 01. Okay. Further, 89(2) has been amended to provide for the documents which are required to be furnished along with what the application for refund by unregistered person, and a statement is to be uploaded along with the refund application. So what are the documents which are required? A statement containing the details of invoices. The statement is to be given containing the details of invoices, that is the invoice number, invoice date, invoice value, tax paid, details of payment in respect of which the refund is being claimed, along with the copy of invoices. These invoices copy is also to be given, proof of making such payment by to the supplier, the copy of agreement or registered agreement or contract as applicable, entered with the supplier for supply of service, letter issued by supplier for cancellation or termination of agreement from time limit will be counted of 2 years will be counted from date of termination letter. So, here the letter issued by the supplier for cancellation or termination of the agreement or contract of supply of service. Details of what? Payment received from the supplier against cancellation or termination of such agreement along with the proof thereof. So, details of what? The payment received from the supplier against cancellation or termination of such agreement along with proof thereof. If the refund has been claimed by unregistered person where agreement or contract of supply of service has been cancelled or terminated, where agreement or contract has been cancelled or terminated. Besides this, a certificate will also be required to be furnished, a certificate which is issued by a supplier to the effect that he has paid tax in respect of side invoices on which refund has been claimed by the unregistered person, and he has not adjusted the tax amount involved in these invoices against his tax liability by issuing credit note, and that he has not claimed and will not claim refund of the amount of tax involved in respect of the invoices. Okay. So, a supplier certificate is also be is disclaimer by supplier in respect of refund, that he is not claiming the refund. Moreover, it has been provided that a certificate from chartered accountant, cost accountant to the effect that there is no unjust enrichment in case application is not required to be furnished where the refund claimed by unregistered person who has borne the incidence of tax even if the amount of refund claim exceeds rupees 2 lakhs. Now, what is the relevant time, relevant date for filing refund claim? So, the relevant date in respect of cases of refund by a person other than supplier is what? Date of receipt of goods or service or both. In given case, the refund claim will be made within 2 years from the date of issuance of letter of cancellation of contract or agreement for the supply by the supplier. The same will be considered as the date of receipt of the services by the applicant. In cases, the amount paid by the supplier to unregistered person on cancellation or termination of agreement or contract for supply of service is less than the amount paid by such unregistered person to the supplier, then they can go for the proportionate refund. So this is what we have discussed here. Then next is relating to demands and recovery. Now next chapter is demands and recovery. Now this clarification is pertaining to the cases where it is concluded that a notice which has been issued under section 74(1) is not sustainable for the reason that the charges of fraud, willful misstatement, suppression of facts, they have not been proved. Then what happens? The notice is regarded as a notice of say normal period of limitation. So here they are seeking clarification relating to the adjudication time limit and what will be, the how much tax demand can be, say, confirmed. So now here section 75(2), we are issued notice under, you are aware of the fact that under section 73, SCN is issued involving normal period of limitation, that is 2 years and 9 months. From what? The due date of filing of annual return of the relevant financial year to which the demand pertains. To which demand pertains. And 74 is dealing with SCN, show cause notice, involving extended period of limitation. Involving extended period of limitation. What is that? 4 years and 6 months. From the date, that is due date of filing of the annual return. Then what 75(2) provides is, say, if they issue a show cause notice, involving extended period of limitation, say they have said that there is a fraud or say willful misstatement or say suppression of facts, and these allegations are levied, allegations could not be proved, and the appellate authority or say tribunal or court gives an order that here you cannot treat it as a show cause notice, involving extended period of limitation. Here they say that you can give normal period of limitation. So first question is, in how much is the time limit to adjudicate this issue now? It is 2 years. They have given the 2 years from the date of the order. You have to say adjudicate this. So first question is, in some of the cases where the show cause notice has been issued by the proper officer to a noticee under section 74(1) for demands of tax not paid, short paid, or earnest refund or ITC wrongly availed or utilized, the appellate authority or the appellate tribunal or court concludes that the said notice is not sustainable under 74(1). They conclude that the said notice is not sustainable under 74(1) for the reason that the charge of fraud or say willful misstatement or suppression of facts to evade tax has not been established against the noticee, and directs the proper officer to redetermine the amount of tax payable by the noticee, deeming the notice under 73(1), that is normal period of limitation. The question is, what would be the time period for determination of tax, interest and penalty payable by the noticee in such cases? So here the timelines, they have already been provided under 75(3). Section 75(3) provides that the order, that is the adjudication order, required to be issued in pursuance of directions of appellate authority or appellate tribunal or court. It is to be what? 2 years from the date of communication of the said direction. So when the direction has been communicated, within 2 years from that date, you have to say, do what? You have to adjudicate it. You have to say adjudicated. Accordingly, so in cases where any direction is issued by the appellate authority or appellate tribunal to redetermine the amount of tax payable by noticee by deeming notice to be issued under 73(1) in accordance with 75(2), proper officer is required to issue the order for redetermination of tax payable within, say, 2 years from the date of communication of the order of the appellate authority, appellate tribunal or court. So within 2 years you have to adjudicate. Now listen. Say it is financial year 2017-18. It is financial year 2017-18. Due date of annual return, due date is 31/12/2018. 31/12/2018. They have given notice for the same under 74. Under 74. Now what is the timeline for issue of notice? Say they have given the notice on, say it is 4 years and 6 months. We take, say they have issued a notice on 31/3/22. They issued a notice on 31/3/22 involving extended period of limitation. And the court has held this notice is not valid. You can take the demand only for under 73(1). Now this timeline has already expired. It is 2 years and 9 months. 2 years and 9 months from 31/12/2018. 2 years and 9 months from what? 31/12/2018. So it is 31/12/2020 plus 9 months. 31/12/2020 plus say 9 months. So here when the say demand in this case is barred by limitation, that is say January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So 30th September they can issue it. So this demand is say barred by limitation on this particular date. On this particular date, whether they can issue this notice, they could not issue this notice. Therefore, this demand is say barred by limitation. But had this notice covered for financial year say 18-19, financial year 19-20, financial year 2021, in this particular notice, these periods have been covered. So in that particular circumstance, for the periods for which show cause notice could be issued on this particular date, okay, for that period the demand will be survive. When demand will survive, it will be adjudicated within say 2 years. So this is further clarification. So how, next question is how the amount payable, which I was telling just now, how the amount payable by noticee deeming the notice under 73(1) shall be recomputed, redetermined by the proper officer as per provisions of 75(2). So in case where the amount of tax or interest and penalty payable by the noticee required to be redetermined by the proper officer under 75(2), the demand would to be determined keeping the provisions of 73(2) and read with 73(10). Now what basically 73(2) is what? A combined reading of 73(1), 73(2), 73(9), 73(10) transpires that the case which do not involve fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of facts to evade payment of tax SCN can be issued within say 2 years and 9 months from the due date of the annual return for the financial year for which the tax short paid, not paid, short paid, ITC wrongly availed or utilized relates, or say from the date of payment of erroneous refund. So this is 2 years and 9 months. Now therefore in cases where the proper officer has to redetermine the amount of tax, interest and penalty payable. Therefore, in cases where the proper officer has to redetermine the amount of tax, interest and penalty payable by deeming the notice to have been issued under 73(1) in terms of or 75(2), the same can be redetermined for so much of the amount. The same can be what? The same can be redetermined. The same can be redetermined for so much of the amount short paid, not paid, or say ITC availed or utilized or erroneous refund with respect to SCN was issued within the time limit specified under 73(2) read with 73(10). So this is basically the thing. So here thus only the amount of tax short paid, not paid, or ITC wrongly availed or utilized, or tax payable on account of erroneous refund along with interest payable and penalty payable in terms of 73(2) can be redetermined where SCN was issued within say 2 years and 9 months from the due date of furnishing the annual return for the respective years from the date of erroneous refund. In case SCN was issued under 74(1) for this tax not paid or short paid or wrongly availed ITC or utilized and erroneous fund is beyond 2 years and 9 months, as we have seen. In our case, it was beyond 2 years and 9 months from the due date of furnishing of annual return. Then the entire tax demand will drop. Then entire proceedings will have to be dropped. Then in that case, entire proceedings will have to be dropped. In case, say, in our case, if they issued, say, for financial year 21-22, they have issued a notice, the due date is 31/12/22 for furnishing the return, and they have issued a notice on 31/3/23 under 74, which was said involving extended period of limitation. On 31/3/23 they have issued. Now they say that it's a notice under 73. The adjudication has been made, say, by the appellate authority on 31, say, May 26. This adjudication order has been received. Now here for 21-22, definitely they could issue notice on 31/3/23. They could definitely issue. It is 2 years and 9 months. 2 years and 9 months from the due date of furnishing of annual return. Then entire demand will sustain. Entire demand will sustain. But if part period are there, for that period notice can be issued under 73(1), that demand will sustain, other will drop. So in cases where SCN in terms of section 74(1) was issued for tax not short paid, not paid, or say ITC wrongly availed or utilized, or say on account of erroneous refund, say within 2 years and 9 months, if the show cause notice was issued within 2 years and 9 months from the due date of annual return, then the entire amount of the said demand would be covered under the determined amount. Definitely, because it is time limit is as per 73(1). And say where SCN under 74(1) was issued for multiple years, for the years for which 2 years 9 months timeline has not expired, the demand will survive. For those years for which 2 years 9 months timeline has already expired, the demand will not survive. So where SCN under 74(1) was issued for multiple financial years and where notice has been issued before the expiry of the time period under 73(2) for one financial year, but after the expiry of the said due date for other financial years, the amount payable in terms of 73 shall be redetermined only in respect of those financial years for which SCN was issued before the expiry of the time period as specified under 73(2). Then relating to proceedings which are conducted under IBC covered under the terms of other proceedings. Now here basically, you know, section 84 is dealing with what? The say government dues, they are redetermined if they are, say, reduced or they are increased. So here if they are reduced, then on the basis of the reduced earlier notice, on the basis of reduced amount, they will go for recovery. Otherwise, if it is increased, they have to given, say, the notice, further notice. So as per 84, if the government dues against any person against CGST Act are reduced as a result of, say, appeal, revision or other proceedings in respect of the government dues, then an intimation they will be given for reduction of the government dues by the commissioner to the concerned person and to the appropriate authority, and recovery proceedings would be continued in relation to the reduced amount. Now here other proceedings has not been defined under the Act. Now they have said that the other proceedings will also cover what? The proceedings under IPC. So it is mentioned that the adjudicating authorities and the appellate authorities under insolvency and bankruptcy code, they are quasi-judicial authorities. They are constituted to deal with the civil disputes pertaining to insolvency and, say, bankruptcy. Okay. So here, for instance, NCLT serves an adjudicating authority for insolvency proceedings which are initiated on application from any stakeholder, okay, of the entity like firm, creditors, debtors, employees, etc., and passes an order approving the resolution plan. So as the proceedings conducted under IBC also adjudicate the government dues pending under CGST Act or under existing laws against corporate debtor, the same appear to be covered under the other proceedings. So proceedings under IBC will be covered under other proceedings. So this is just a small amendment. Now appeals and revision. Now what is happening here is, say, if appeal, you are filing appeal electronically against order of adjudicating authority. In case if a filing, say, appeal against order of adjudicating authority, and this order is given by the adjudicating authority and that has been, say, uploaded on the common portal. This order has been uploaded on the common portal. So when this order has been uploaded on the common portal, definitely the same can be viewed by whom? The appellate authority also. The same can be viewed by the appellate authority also. So there will be no requirement for submission of certified copy of order of the adjudicating authority which is so disputed in appeal. Here basically the date of filing the appeal will be, the date of issue of provisional acknowledgement. Now if this certified copy of the order, this order is not passed electronically, if order is not passed electronically by the adjudicating authority, then in that case, if it has not been uploaded on the common portal, then definitely you have to give certified copy of the order. We have to give certified copy of the order, say within 7 days. If the same has been given within 7 days of filing the application, filing the appeal, then your appeal will be deemed to have been filed on the date when the provisional acknowledgement has been issued. But if this certified copy is not given within 7 days, in that particular circumstance, whenever you upload the certified copy of the order, then the appeal will be deemed to have been filed. So here let us see what the amendment is basically. So in case of appeal filed against the order of adjudicating authority which is uploaded on common portal, the requirement of submission of certified copy of order has been dispensed with. You are not required to file the certified copy of order. So an appeal against any decision or order passed by adjudicating authority to the appellate authority can be filed either by the aggrieved person, that is the taxpayer, or by the department under say 107 read with rule 108, or department under 1072 read with rule 109. Earlier 1083, which provided that in respect of appeal filed by the aggrieved person, we have to give a certified copy of decision or order. The same was required to be submitted within 7 working days of filing of the appeal, within 7 days of filing of the appeal. This was required to be submitted in all cases, and date of filing of appeal in case where a certified copy was submitted within 7 days of filing appeal is the date of issuance of the provisional acknowledgement, and otherwise it will be the date of submission of the certified copy. Similarly, rule 1092 also provided for the same, okay, when department used to file. However, in GST regime, say in GST regime, where order which is appealed against is issued or uploaded by adjudicating authority on common portal, the same can be viewed by the appellate authority. Accordingly, the requirement of submission by the appellant of certified copy of order to be uploaded to vouch its authenticity pales into say insignificance, considering the order has been uploaded by the adjudicating authority using his digital certificate, and same is available for viewing and downloading by the appellate authority on the portal. However, in case where decision or order has been passed manually and the same has not been uploaded, then definitely you have to give the certified copy of the order. Therefore, they have made the amendment in this regard. So, where the decision rule 1093 has been rule 1083 has been amended. So, where the decision or order appealed against is uploaded on the common portal, a final acknowledgement indicating the appeal number shall be issued by appellate authority or say an officer authorized by him in this behalf, and the date of issue of provisional acknowledgement shall be considered as what? Date of filing the appeal. They have to give, as soon as we file the appeal, a provisional acknowledgement is given. So, however, where the decision order appeal against is not uploaded on the common portal, where the decision or order appeal against is not uploaded on the common portal, the appellant shall submit a certified copy of the order within a period of 7 days from the date of filing the appeal in form GST APL 01. And the final acknowledgement indicating the appeal number shall be issued by the appellate authority or officer authorized by him, and the date of issue of provisional acknowledgement will be considered as date of filing of the appeal. Further, where the said certified copy of the decision or order is not submitted within the period of 7 days, then what will be the date of filing of the appeal? When you give the certified copy of the order. Similar amendment has been made when say department is also filing the application. Then we have further one rule 109C has been introduced for withdrawal of appeal. It is withdrawal of appeal. So, earlier there was no provision in the GST law to withdraw the appeal, which has been filed either under 1072 by the assessee, or we can say the taxpayer, or 1072 by the department before the first appellate authority against the orders of the adjudicating authority by the aggrieved person or the authorized officer respectively. Hence, now new rule 109C has been inserted, which provides that you can make an application for withdrawal of appeal also. So, the appellant may at any time before issuance of show cause notice under section 107(11) by the appellate authority or before issuance of the appellate order, okay, in respect of appeal filed in form GST APL 01 or APL 03 by the department, file an application for withdrawal of the appeal. Okay, they can file an application for withdrawal of the appeal, okay, or filing of the application as the case may be. However, where the final acknowledgement has been issued, then in that particular circumstance, the withdrawal of the appeal would be subject to the approval of the appellate authority, and such application of withdrawal of the appeal shall be decided by the appellate authority. Shall be decided by whom? The appellate authority within say 7 days of filing of such application. Further, fresh appeal may be filed as per the timelines which has been already fixed. So, this is a provision relating to withdrawal of appeal. Then in miscellaneous provisions, nothing, when major amendment is there, no major amendment is there. Earlier, National Anti-Profiteering Authority was there. Earlier, National Anti-Profiteering Authority was separately constituted. Now this has been omitted, and now the Competition Commission of India will act as what? The Anti-Profiteering Authority. When we see that, if any dealer or say supplier is engaged in profiteering, his case may be sent to the Anti-Profiteering Authority. When he is engaged in profiteering, when he is not passing on the benefit of the ITC or rate reduction to the recipient. So for that purpose, NA was constituted to examine whether the ITC availed by any registered person or say reduction in the tax rates has been say actually passed on to the recipient by way of commensurate reduction in the prices. So for that, whether they are engaged in profiteering or not, for that National Anti-Profiteering Authority was constituted. Now this National Anti-Profiteering Authority has ceased to exist with effect from 1st of December 22. With effect from 1st of December 22, Competition Commission of India. Competition Commission of India basically is empowered to examine whether the ITC availed by registered person or reduction in tax rate has actually resulted in what? Commensurate reduction in the prices. Therefore, whatever investigations based on the complaints filed by the consumers, they will be done by the Director General of Anti-Profiteering, and they will submit the copy to whom? The Competition Commission of India. So this authority, the definition of authority, in that who has been notified, the Anti-Profiteering Authority has been omitted and Competition Commission of India has been notified. And whatever constitution and other provisions were there, tenure, etc., they have also been now, these rules 122, 124, 125 and 134 have also been omitted. And one consequential amendment is there. Earlier it was duties of authority, word was used, now it is functions of authority. What are the functions? They will investigate the case and they will pass the order that you have to say refund the amount to the ultimate recipient, or the amount may be refunded to the deposited in the consumer welfare fund. So necessary orders were there. So here instead of duties word, they have used the word functions. And in 161 also, here the words order, intimation or notice shall be substituted. So instead of order, intimation or notice. So these are the amendments which have been made in the GST law, which we have discussed. So these amendments are very, very important from examination point of view. You have to do it, understand the same, so that you can pass the exam in November exams with flying colors. So these amendments have been separately recorded by us in Hindi. इनको अलग से हमने हिंदी में रिकॉर्ड कर रखा है, जो ऑलरेडी अपलोड कर रखे हैं यूट्यूब चैनल पे. आप यूट्यूब चैनल पे जाके दोज स्टूडेंट्स हु आर से मच कंफर्टेबल इन हिंदी, वो आप यूट्यूब चैनल पे जाके आराम से वो अमेंडमेंट्स देख सकते हैं. यही चीज़, बिल्कुल यही चीज़ वहाँ भी डिस्कस हुई हुई है. टाइम ड्यूरेशन भी मोर और लेस सेम ही है, 2-2.5 घंटे के आसपास वो लेक्चर है. यूट्यूब पे देखिए उन लेक्चर्स को. एंड इफ़ यू आर से कन्वर्जेंट विद हिंदी के साथ कन्वर्जेंट है, इंग्लिश के साथ कन्वर्जेंट है, और सिर्फ इंग्लिश देखनी है तो ये है ही है. यू कैन सी द सेम. थैंक यू. रीड द अमेंडमेंट्स प्रॉपरली एंड अप्लाई देम सेम प्रॉपरली and pass the examination with flying colors.